What is up, people? It is Sawuse1 back again. It has been quite a while since I've made a video, but I've been working hard, and you can see by the screen that this video is on World War II, just weird planes. I found an article talking about the Gooney Birds, which is just, I guess, the name that they entitled to a lot of these weird World War II war-era planes. And this one right here was kind of nicknamed the Swoosh Goose. So you can see it looks like it's rather front heavy, but due to that prop sitting at the back, it's a little easy to pivot off the ground, pivot off those back two wheels. Unfortunately, it was not adopted by the Army, and this is the German Army, because the top speed of the craft was under 400 miles an hour. I mean, it was a rather slow craft. Very maneuverable, very cool looking. It actually featured a front fuselage that could pivot down, so whenever it's running horizontally along the ground, it can pivot that front fuselage down, and it can make strafing runs that apparently were very accurate, made it a very good option. It was just far too slow. And I mean, honestly, you can really see that here. I really worked on the prop angles, try to get as much juice out of that engine as I could, and it just couldn't get me above about 65, 70 meters a second. So not that all the physics and intricacies of Kerbal Space Program reflect real life by any means, but yeah, it just wasn't too fast. It was very maneuverable. I actually really like just those plane designs in general, with the two booms that go back and kind of connect to the tail wing. I just like how those are done. I've always found them to be really maneuverable, and this one was too. It was just a slow aircraft, and by the time the company that worked on the aircraft replaced the engine or upgraded it, I believe the Germans already decided what planes they wanted, so it was just a moot point. And one other downside you can see in the first person is there's not great visuals forward because of how big that fuselage was, but the side-by-side's fairly good. And yeah, it was just a pretty nice plane, pretty odd looking, not something that you see today, and especially not a warplane type, like ergonomic craft. It's just, that's why it's one of the Gooney Birds, one of those weird craft. So didn't have a problem landing it. Like I said, it was super maneuverable, and honestly, it was a pretty cool craft to fly. Now the next one, after we wait for this to load, is the flying side saddle. It's hard to look that one up by name just because that's also like a horse riding thing. I don't know, you could just look it up by its actual name, the BV-144, whatever it said. Now this one, you can obviously tell, is a lot different than the other aircraft because it is asymmetrical. And if you've spent any time in Kerbal Space Program, asymmetrical stuff does not want to fly. And I worked a while on this one, and you can see takeoff is definitely a little rough. Now that I think about it, working on traction control or the friction control of the wheels would have probably been the best route. But I did get it off, and then immediately broke the wing. So the first run was a little rough. You really just got to figure out how it wants to jerk you around right when you get in the air, but after that it flies quite smoothly. So getting off the ground and getting onto the ground was difficult, but other than that, it actually flew a lot better than you would think. Making it was tough because in the vehicle assembly building for planes, everything's symmetrical, so you'd put like two wings on the side of like one center fuselage. Makes building it way quicker and like way more symmetrical. Not the case for this because there isn't really a center. Like the center of mass would be in between those two fuselages. Now, the real aircraft that they proposed, the flying side saddle, was actually pretty heavily considered by, I believe it was the Germans again, and the reason was, other than looking left and seeing that big engine right there, they actually had a really good field of view. I should have built it a little bit different, but where those smaller wings are on the back of the actual cabin, there was another gunner right there, and he had apparently excellent view, and apparently like the captain's quarters in the front had also really good view. The only dislikes about this plane, I believe, was a little bit of the engine. They just thought it was a little weak also, and I believe it's like profile in flight was too big, or I'm not exactly sure what it was. Something about like it's like target profile being a little too big. Really cool plane though. Actually flew a little bit faster. Just the fact that it's asymmetrical easily puts it on that list, because there's rarely any craft that you see that's asymmetrical. They might have like two cabins, or it might be like a mirror where there's two fuselages, but rarely is there ever like one thing on one side and then something completely different on the other side. So it was just really cool. I mean, your center of thrust is like not in line with your center of mass, which is also weird. But planes are also a lot more forgiving. That is, when you come to landing, Kerbal Space Program is a very notorious game for its landing gears. And I don't know if anyone's played it in the past, but about a year ago they were absolutely terrible. Now they've gotten a lot better. You've been able to customize them more, and you can see I kind of did a little hop there, and everything was fine. Put a little drift at the end. Now this next one is actually not a World War II era. It's just a Russian jet that I've just become like really attracted to. It just like looks really sleek. It's got the inverted wing, which is uncommon, which is why I added it. It's not World War II, but the uncommonness of the craft is kind of what I was focusing on. And so these inverted wings, I believe, were fairly popular at the time. I think they did adopt a handful of these jets. They didn't become too mainstream. I think there was a few weird aerodynamic qualities that it offered. But I mean, you can see how easily it lifts off the ground, has a great top speed, just because it's a jet, obviously. I mean, it was just a cool plane, really maneuverable. I can't imagine what flying one of those would be like, and I'd be interested to know what qualities it has different from a normal jet. I have no idea. If you guys know, I mean, say it in the comments. But getting a little bit away from this, so a little personal project that I've kind of been looking at now is making RC planes. Now, I start like tons of projects, most of them kind of pointless, and maybe a little stupid, but I mean just cool projects, I think. And recently, I've kind of become involved with RC planes a little bit. So I've been watching some videos. Oh man, the two names of the two people that I watch has like slipped me, but I'll definitely mention it because they are like, they have really good content. But I've like ordered a bunch of stuff to start making them, and I'll see if I can do like some kind of thing with Kerbal Space Program and like an actual RC plane, try to make a video about that. I'm not sure, but being able to turn your thoughts into like a craft on Kerbal Space Program, which is why people honestly love the game, because you can just like create actual planes and rockets, see what works, see what doesn't, and it's a game that's in-depth enough to where if you're a beginner and not very intelligent like I was when I started, and pretty much like I am right now, to not gonna lie, you can figure out like what airplanes work, just basically like easy stuff. And then when you get a lot better, you can also see like start testing specific things. It's just like way more in depth. But being able to take those ideas and turning them into jets and planes and all those weird things, and then being able to turn that into an actual like physical real craft that you could just like throw outside and start flying, I just thought that'd be really cool. So I'm working on that right now. I'm not an electronics guy. I'll go ahead and say electronics suck and they all hate me. So I'm like really trying to figure out what's wrong with some stuff right now. But as soon as I figure that out, I will definitely report back. I'm going to try and put out some more videos. You guys just comment on whatever you want to see. I've got work right now. I'm actually living like 5 hours from my actual home, so I just try to keep all the content going because been getting a little more views recently. So If you guys want to see something, just let me know, and I really appreciate all the viewers. And subscribe if you like what you see, and just thanks so much. I will see you guys in the next video. Saw Use One, signing out.